Hello, we have a very special program in store for you that captures some of the history of the Manatee Chamber of Commerce as we celebrate the 125th anniversary of the founding of what is now the Manatee Chamber. I am Bob Bartz, and I've had the honor and privilege of leading the Manatee Chamber of Commerce as its president since 1982. As its president, I have worked with visionary leaders who come from all types of industries, but have one thing that they all have in common. It is the determination that businesses can and should lead change in our community. Assisting these chairmen and our board of directors are staff members who are true professionals dedicated to chamber work and to our community, who have become leaders as well. In 1889, a group of business people formed the Bradenton Board of Trade as a way for businesses to capitalize and collaborate with a unified voice. This idea that businesses can lead positive change that affects commerce, improves the quality of life, is the foundation for modern chambers of commerce. In 1962, the Palmetto and Bradenton chambers merged to become the Manatee Chamber of Commerce. Representing businesses in every corner of our county, we have grown into the largest chamber in the Tampa Bay area, with a voice that represents more than 2,000 local businesses and organizations and more than 74,000 employees. One of the biggest strengths of the Manatee Chamber, which was true then and is today, is that bring business together from Anna Maria to Ellington, Bradenton to Lakewood Ranch, Palmetto to South County, and all places in between. And together, the leaders of the Manatee Chamber have influenced decisions here, in Tallahassee, in Washington, D.C., that have had lasting impacts for many generations. What we'd like to share with you now are the remembrances of many of our past chairmen of the board. These men and women, along with the thousands of business leaders who have served on our board of directors, committees, task forces, and advisory groups, have led the Manatee Chamber of Commerce to create a legacy of leadership for Manatee County. Let's hear their stories.
My name is Fred Langford, and I was the first president of the Manatee County Chamber of Commerce, which was the bringing together all of the chambers into one unit. And it was a privilege and certainly an honor for me to be the first one. But it did bring the community together in its efforts to make the community grow and grow in the way that it wanted to do and needed to do. We brought the county together in a way that it had never happened before, and it accomplished things that we might not have ever seen. We can't be sure of that, but it would seem that way. It was a challenge, it was fun, it was hard work, and I'm pleased to be able to say that most of the things that we tried to do were done and accomplished well. Thank you.
I'm Jack Miller, former Chief Executive Officer of Miller Trailers. During June of 1973, the Board of Directors worked diligently and successfully in getting approval for a branch in Manatee County for the University of South Florida. This educational branch has been very successful through the years and continues to have an impact on our area. Thank you, Manatee Chamber of Commerce, for that work.
I was actually president of the chamber for a year and a half, and during that period of time we had experienced some difficulties. One of the things that I feel that we accomplished as a board was to bring in a new executive director that had a lot of energy and set the beginning for all of the great things that have followed since that period of time.
I'm Dick Turner, and I was chairman of the chamber for 15 months in 1977 and 1978. The finest achievement of my administration was the advent of the Siemens project. The Siemens Corporation from Munich, Germany was a major worldwide conglomerate. They had to locate a site that would satisfy the requirements for the manufacturer of these huge turbines and generators. We worked very hard, our EDC and the chamber personnel worked very hard, and they had come to Governor Askew's office to tell us, the Manatee County Chamber, that they were coming to our community and were going to build this huge manufacturing facility on a site between Palmetto and Ellington. And we celebrated, and it was my privilege to be a part of all of that.
It was my pleasure to serve as chairman of the Manatee County Chamber of Commerce to the year 1979. During that year, the County Commission expressed a desire to relocate their facility outside of the city limits of Bradenton. The Chamber felt this was not a good move for the membership, the citizens, and the governments of the city and the county, which need to be working together, not separating themselves. The Chamber developed a resolution which we presented to the County Commission and asking them to please rethink their idea of moving outside the city limits. Fortunately, the Chamber rethought it. They did not move outside of the city, and today we enjoy a better relationship between the county and the city and the Chamber. And I feel that was one of the outstanding events that happened during my tenure as chairman of the Chamber.
One of the more significant events during the term I was chair of the Chamber was the decision to rebuild the Sunshine Skyway. It's hard to imagine this part of Florida without the Skyway, but there were those in the area who did not favor rebuilding the Skyway. It would have been, in my opinion, a major disaster for this county had they not done so. But thanks to government officials, including then Governor Bob Graham, the decision was made to rebuild the Skyway after it was determined that the original Skyway was in fact insured, and some other technological factors which made it much more efficient to rebuild the Skyway than to follow other plans. But that has had a continuing impact on this area, and the Manatee Chamber played a major part in making that decision, which has proved to be very favorable to our area.
1982 was a great year for the Chamber, but the most important thing that happened in that particular year was we had to replace the executive who ran the Chamber on a day-to-day basis. After interviewing, I told the board we need to look no further. We found the right person, Bob Bartz. We hired Bob, and with Bob came his wife Vicki and baby Jason, who have contributed to this community for 31 years and are still contributing even today. Bob's been a great executive. We have a great chamber. It was a real pleasure to be chairman in that year. Thank you.
I'm Bill Sedgman. I was chamber chairman in 1983. I had the privilege of serving in the 5th month of Bob's service to the chamber. He was hired the prior year by Jan Smith, and I had the opportunity then to take Bob and introduce him to our community and try to give him what I could in terms of us start off in his new career here. Our greatest accomplishment, in my opinion, was the formation of a Leadership Manatee. It was one of the first in the country, and a program that Bob brought with him and introduced to our staff, and we got it started, and it continues today, some 31 years later, with more than 1,000 graduates, to its credit, trained in community leadership and service. I enjoyed my service in the chamber, and I have never forgotten the activities we engaged in and the difference it made in my life, and I know it made a difference in our community.
Good evening. My name's Frank Buskirk. My year was 1984. It was 30 years ago, and the Chamber underwent a remodeling and refurnishing that forced us to meet elsewhere for 7 to 8 months. We installed our first computer. We initiated a charter government study, which I think we're still studying. We helped pass a 1-cent countywide gas tax with the requirement that no funds would be taken from the existing road budget. Unfortunately, that did not last. We lobbied Tallahassee and received a startup funding for a bi-county engineering school at USF. Later, a new dean would terminate the program. But what did last was restructuring the EDC and finding funds to hire Nancy Engel as the vice president. That was very successful, as you well know. We added approximately 100 new members and made a small profit. It was a good year for 32-year-old skinny Bob Bartz.
There have been a lot of great strides with the Chamber since my year of 1985. Back in 1985, I think one of the key things that happened with the Chamber, we were very instrumental, I think, in allowing the community to be recognized as a blue chip community by the Florida Department of Commerce. There was a tremendous amount of information that needed to be generated in order for that designation to be obtained, and I think the Chamber played a pivotal role in that designation as a blue chip community. I'd also like to point out that in 1985, Neil Spiritus joined the Chamber. I think that was a tremendous addition to the staff, and he's been very effective over the years with the legislative committee, particularly pushing the things through the legislative area that are important to our community and to the Chamber.
During the time I served on the board of directors, chairman of the EDC in 1986, and then as chairman of the board of the Chamber in 1987, there was a growing concern among a lot of people in the business community and the Chamber board that positions of the business community and the Chamber were not being given proper consideration by certain government officials. And in fact, those positions were often openly attacked by some of the local officials. As a result, at our annual planning retreat, the Chamber decided to create a political action committee and to get involved directly in finding and assisting qualified people to run for public office. Having experienced those times, it's great to now see the great relationship and the working partnership between the Chamber and our local governments in trying to grow our economy and improve our quality of life.
Hi, my name is Dan Miller, and I was chairman in 1989. In 1989, we got involved in quality of life issues. We created an environmental committee, and we created an education committee. Quality of life issues are real important to the business community, and I'm glad we got involved in these issues because we're so often just perceived of trying to make a buck. In addition, in 1989, we got involved in preserving and keeping the Pittsburgh Pirates here in our community. They're a great asset, and I'm glad they're still here.
The Chamber enjoys many successes year after year, but my fondest memory of 1990 was the start of the EDC. In the early years, we looked for an opportunity for a social event for our business partners and members. One Saturday afternoon, we went and bought concrete block, a huge piece of expanded metal grating, 20 bags of charcoal, and headed to the woods in Parrish. We barbecued chicken wings and ribs and corn on the cob and enjoyed a great afternoon of camaraderie. It's been over 20 years now, and the EDC's Hobnob Barbecue is the largest single social and networking event that the Chamber does year after year. That's where it began. Thanks.
1991 was an interesting year. We were coming out of a recession, and during the year we had the Gulf War that ended. The Cold War also ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union. So our chamber was focused on improving the workforce, promoting a drug-free workplace, and seeking a cleaner environment. So what happened? Well, we got Emerson Point, and the chamber provided great leadership working with Toby Holland and others to save Emerson Point for this community. Swift Mud, we had always wanted a seat on Swift Mud. Under John McKay's leadership, we were able to obtain from the state, and Governor Childs approved an appointment for a permanent seat. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates decided they were taking off for Winter Haven. Well, fortunately, the community got together, and in collaboration under leadership of Ron Allen, Bob Blaylock, Mayor Evers, and Joe McClash and the County Commission, we were able to keep the Pittsburgh Pirates in Manatee County. It was a great year with lots of leadership and collaboration.
The Chamber mission statement in 1992 stated in part that the Chamber was the voice of business in Manatee County. That voice was heard in Washington, D.C. and recognized by President Bush in 1992 when the Chamber received an invitation from the President to attend a ceremony held in the Rose Garden of the White House to acknowledge the work of the Chamber to promote the National Drugs Don't Work program. The Chamber, in conjunction with Tropicana Products, started the BAN program, Business Against Narcotics and Drugs in the Workplace, and it was available to all businesses in Manatee County thanks to the Chamber. It was a model for the national effort. I'm proud to be part of an organization that is committed to support businesses and improve our community.
Thanks. In 1994, the story reads, "Rosy predictions for the reviving economy. The government's forecasting turned in its best 5-month showing since the recession a decade ago." Sound familiar? In March, the unemployment rate fell from 5.3% in January and February to 4.2% in March. The most memorable event was the renovation of the Chamber building in downtown Bradenton. The Chamber underwent a $400,000 renovation that year. As chairman, I had the task of working with the contractor to assure we stayed on budget. Translated, that means Bob Bartz did a good job of overseeing the construction. Stan Stevens was the contractor. The work transformed an antiquated building into a modern office space. In November, the staff had to temporarily move to Palmetto into space donated by Nations Bank. Due to the move, phone lines and computer systems were down for 2 days. However, Bob Bartz's phone was down for the rest of the year. I couldn't reach him at all after the Chamber retreat.
Hi, I'm Susan Scott. I'm proud to have been the first woman chair of the Manatee Chamber of Commerce. Another first was I'm proud to have presided over the very first board meeting held at the new facility in downtown Bradenton. Another first was